The Haifa port event, I think, is a very important event. Haifa is a strategic port for Israel.
Israel has always been a master of turning scarcity into strength. Farming in deserts, drinking water pulled straight from the sea, running cities on ingenuity rather than abundance. But some of the country's most audacious projects aren't in the desert at all. They're happening beneath the waves of the Mediterranean Sea. Over the last decade, Israel has lifted more than 600 million cubic feet of sand, rock, and silt from the seabed. Imagine a mountain ripped out of the ocean, bucket by bucket. And then imagine most of that material wasn't dumped back into the water. It was used to create new land, reclaiming more than 240 acres from the sea. Why? Because Israel is quietly building a new kind of empire, one not carved in stone or steel, but in shipping lanes and trade hubs. Here's the context. Up to 30% of Israel's imports now come from Asia. Electronics, machinery, vehicles, everyday goods, all moving thousands of miles across the Indian Ocean. On paper, the answer seems simple. Ships from Asia could just dock at Israel's southernmost port, Eilat, on the Red Sea. After all, that's the closest gateway to Asia. But reality isn't that simple. Eilat has one fatal flaw. It's too shallow. The depth at its cargo piers is just 31 to 33 feet. Modern giants like Neo-Panamax and ULCVs, ships carrying 14,000 to 18,000 containers with drafts of 50 feet or more, can't dock there. They'd run aground before even reaching the pier. Couldn't Israel just dredge it deeper? Number Eilat sits on one of the world's most unique ecosystems, the coral reefs of the Gulf of Aqaba. Dredging would choke the reefs with silt, disrupt currents, and wipe out biodiversity in a region already hanging by a thread. And that's just one problem. Eilat is more than 150 miles from Israel's population centers, Tel Aviv, Haifa, Jerusalem. There's no rail connection, meaning every container would have to be hauled by truck across the Negev desert. The cost and inefficiency would cancel out the entire advantage. So Israel faced a brutal truth. Its Asian gateway couldn't be modernized. That's why attention shifted to the Mediterranean, specifically to Haifa, a city far better connected by road and rail, closer to industry and population centers. But Haifa's old port wasn't ready either. Depths ranged from 33 to 47 feet. Big ships bypassed it for deeper European harbors. If Israel wanted to secure its trade future, it had to perform surgery on the sea itself. In 2015, Israel launched one of the most ambitious maritime projects in its history. Specialized dredgers, massive floating machines fitted with chain buckets and suction pipes, went to work day and night cutting into the seabed. The target depth, 57 feet, enough to welcome the largest container ships on the planet. The numbers are staggering. Over the course of the project, more than 529 million cubic feet of sand and rock were removed. To put that in perspective, that's enough material to fill 6,000 Empire State Buildings. And here's the genius part. Israel didn't waste it. Of the material pulled up, about 176 million cubic feet were dumped offshore. But the rest, an incredible 353 million cubic feet, was used to build an artificial island in Haifa Bay, reclaiming 207 acres from the sea. This man-made land became the foundation for a new state-of-the-art terminal, Bayport. Picture it, steel walls driven into the seabed, sealing off a huge rectangle of ocean. Pumps drained the water until workers stood on exposed seabed as if it were dry land. Layer after layer of sand was poured in and compacted, reinforced with drainage pipes so the soil hardened like bedrock. On top of this, massive concrete slabs were laid, ready to hold cranes weighing thousands of tons. Israel wasn't just modernizing a port, it was building an entirely new coastline. Bayport was designed for one purpose: to welcome the monsters of the sea. ULCVs, ships stretching over 1,300 feet long, capable of carrying 18,000 containers in a single voyage. To handle them, Bayport was fitted with some of the largest cranes on Earth, each one capable of lifting dozens of containers an hour, guided by precision control systems. Behind the docks, vast container yards were laid out, serviced by automated stacker cranes running on rails like robotic giants. Truck entry was automated too. License plate recognition cut waiting times to seconds. Rail lines connected the terminal directly to Israel's national network, bypassing road bottlenecks and feeding cargo deep into the country. From the start, Bayport wasn't just a port, it was a machine designed to process the future of Israel's trade. But the sea never forgets. Waves erode, storms batter, silt creeps back in. Without protection, Bayport would have been swallowed by the same waters it rose from. So Israel built fortresses of stone and concrete, breakwaters stretching for miles, designed to take the punishment instead of the artificial island. The main breakwater was extended nearly 3,000 feet. An auxiliary barrier more than a mile long was added, using 43,000 giant concrete blocks and 5.3 million tons of stone. Some sections were built from caissons, massive hollow concrete boxes floated out to sea, then sunk into place and filled with rock. The result? Waves strike, but Bayport stands untouched. Bayport wasn't Israel's first experiment in rewriting the coastline. Back in 2010, the Carmel terminal had already broken new ground. That project dredged a more modest 88 million cubic feet of material to reach depths of 51 feet. Still, space was tight on shore, so Israel once again reached into the sea, reclaiming 2.4 million square feet of artificial land. On that platform, engineers built berths stretching over 3,000 feet, lined with 6 towering cranes and a fleet of electric stackers. Containers could be moved, sorted, and stored with a speed that slashed waiting times. For the first time, Israel's northern port could welcome post-Panamax ships carrying more than 15,000 containers. Carmel was a signal. Bayport was the full transformation. When Bayport opened, Israel could finally handle ULCVs, the largest container ships ever built. Each vessel, carrying over 18,000 TEUs, replaced 2 or 3 smaller ships. Shipping costs dropped dramatically, not just for Israel, but for its Asian partners too. The numbers speak for themselves. By 2023, the throughput capacity of Haifa's ports, Carmel plus Bayport, reached 1.53 million TEUs. That's still a fraction of global giants like Shanghai's 47 million TEUs. But for Israel, it was revolutionary. More importantly, Haifa became a transit hub for the Eastern Mediterranean. Asian goods unloaded in Haifa could be reloaded onto smaller ships bound for Greece, Cyprus, Egypt. In 2012, when the MSC Golden Gate docked, 1,600 containers were shifted in a single stop, some bound not for Israel, but for Alexandria, Egypt. Haifa had become the region's middleman, a role that pays handsomely. The benefits weren't just measured in cargo tonnage. Thousands of jobs were created: dock workers, crane operators, truckers, rail staff, logistics managers. Entire industries sprang up around repair, insurance, warehousing, and security. Haifa's image shifted from an industrial afterthought to one of Israel's most critical economic engines. For the north of the country, long overshadowed by Tel Aviv, the port's modernization was a lifeline, narrowing the gap between center and periphery. Automation made it faster, yes, but it also made it reliable. Fewer delays meant fewer costs for businesses and consumers alike. Goods from Asia flowed smoother, cheaper, faster. Ironically, Haifa's rise might never have happened if another audacious idea had moved forward: the Southern Gate Project. More than a decade ago, planners dreamed of relocating the port of Eilat inland, literally carving a canal 2.4 miles long, 328 feet wide, to connect the Gulf of Aqaba to a brand new inland port. It would have freed up Eilat's coastline for tourism and bypassed the fragile coral reefs. But the price tag was enormous, more than $3 billion. And without strong political support, the plan withered. That failure sealed Eilat's fate as a tourist town and set Haifa on the path to becoming Israel's true Asian gateway. Even today, the work never stops. The Mediterranean constantly pushes back, silting channels, eroding foundations, battering breakwaters. So dredging continues on a smaller scale, like cleaning a machine that never turns off. Sediment is lifted, depths are maintained, walls are repaired, the sea attacks, and Israel patches, adjusts, and rebuilds. It's a constant reminder that the battle for maritime trade isn't won once. It's fought every day, tide after tide. All this construction, the dredging, the cranes, the artificial islands, boils down to one reality. Israel has tied its future to Asia. 30% of imports and climbing. Electronics from China, vehicles from Korea, machinery from Japan. The lifelines of a modern economy. Without Haifa, those goods would face delays, detours, and skyrocketing costs. With Haifa, Israel positions itself as the Eastern Mediterranean hub, a bridge not just for its own goods, but for Europe's too. Asian manufacturers save money. Regional ports rely on Israeli efficiency, and Israel itself takes a cut of every container unloaded on its soil. The symbolism is powerful. A nation famous for making deserts bloom is now making land from the sea, not with dreams, but with dredgers, steel caissons, and 5 million tons of rock. Bayport isn't just a terminal, it's a statement. Israel refuses to be limited by geography. Coral reefs block Eilat, then build in Haifa. Shallow waters hold back trade, then dig deeper. No land available, then create it. And in doing so, Israel hasn't just expanded its coast, it has expanded its role in global trade. In less than 15 years, Israel transformed its maritime infrastructure from outdated piers into a world-class shipping hub. It dredged 500 million cubic feet from the seabed, reclaimed hundreds of acres from the sea, built breakwaters that stretch for miles, and filled its skyline with cranes taller than skyscrapers. The payoff is simple: faster trade, lower costs, stronger ties with Asia, and a seat at the table of Mediterranean commerce. Water may wear down stone, as the saying goes, but in Haifa, Israel proved the opposite. With enough determination, stone can push back the sea.